Why the building is closed?
Well, we were advised by the attorneys to close the building. The building shouldn't be open.
They take this serious. I think it's a big game to them, and they don't understand that the more confusion and the more back and forth that we do.
One endures the spectacle that was directed by Tiffany Henyard, who is known as a self-described super. Consider the madness of the conference as a hybrid of a high-stakes opera and a courtroom play with passionate finger-pointing dram walkouts, accusations being thrown in all ways. And maybe in the most recent problematic period, in an already stormy political career, the atmosphere in the room was so tense that it was almost tangible at the beginning of the meeting, and Henyard wasted no time in setting a combative tone, continuing a month-long chain of controversy surrounding her leadership accusations of poor management, corruption, and extravagant spending that followed her for a while. She was quick to attack township trustees, accusing them of ignoring their duties and the needs of the community. Her remarks became more and more venomous, and she wasn't just criticizing the current board, she also attacked previous no-shows, accusing trustees of being absent during important decisions that affected the township. As Henyard heated up the debates, the meeting's atmosphere swiftly shifted from tense to chaotic. There were harsh accusations, finger-pointing, and emotional outbursts which detracted from the professionalism one would expect in a government meeting. An angry attendee compared the proceedings to an old-fashioned wrestling showdown, complete with exaggerated rhetoric and dramatic monologues delivered with flair. While this description may have sounded exaggerated, it fit the mood of the evening, especially for those familiar with the rough term. Henyard outbursts are becoming the norm for many attendees. This was not just a political meeting, though. It was an impromptu political theater performance. After the meeting raised serious concerns about whether the local government was still functioning in the best interests of the community or had become a partisan battleground, several trustees retaliated. They accused her of misusing township funds, charged her with dictatorial leadership, and claimed she prioritized her personal grievances over the needs of the community. She framed herself as a resolute warrior fighting against entrenched opposition, suggesting that the establishment was determined to thwart her efforts to serve the community. At one point, Henyard declared, "If you want your job, I'll do it for you." This statement inspired some supporters in the room, but it also drew harsh criticism from those who saw it as a blatant power grab and an indication of growing authoritarianism. Despite the chaos intensifying her criticisms, Henyard remained calm and unflagging. A trustee became irate and slammed the door behind them as they left the meeting, causing the audience to become agitated. At the end of the night, it was clear that the meeting had only deepened the rift between Henyard and her detractors. Both sides had dug in their heels, and Henyard remained steadfast in her defiance, presenting herself as a leader, while critics of her accuse her of participating in careless spending that indicates her attention to opulent projects was tone deaf to the concerns of a community facing crumbling infrastructure, public services being delayed, and residents becoming more disillusioned with claims that township funds were being used to protect Henyard's person, rather than for more comprehensive safety measures that could benefit the community. Public safety was another hotly debated topic. However, the discussion rarely progressed towards tangible solutions, instead escalating the divisions that had already existed in the township. Since Henyard rose to power, her actions were seen as emblematic of everything that was wrong with the current state of the township government, including unclear leadership, a lack of direction, and a hostile atmosphere that left trustees and residents alike weary and distrustful. There was no hearing here today, no lawyer was present, and Henyard stuck to her position despite the fact that the meeting had not brought any clarity and had instead increased confusion and division, underscoring the administration's growing dysfunction. The most notable person in this conflict is Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose defiance and accusations further fueled the tension. Doran Township is dealing with a developing issue that spans, and despite a heated meeting to address it, no resolution was reached. Instead, the gathering descended into chaos, with blame flying in all directions, passionate speeches, and growing frustration from all parties. This incident directly jeopardizes vital community services and transcends political disagreements. Due to the township's lack of insurance, since December 1st, both staff and residents are at risk. Henyard was unreserved in his accusations against the township. During the meeting, the trustees of negligence announced that the insurance renewal had been canceled due to their recurrent absences from prior sessions. She also urged homeowners to speak with their trustees directly and insist that They fulfilled their obligations. Her detractors swiftly jumped on her accusations, accusing her of using the insurance problem as a political tool to bully the board into promoting her personal agenda, even if the room's growing hostility reflected what Henyard had said. One of her harshest detractors. As tensions grew and voices were raised, the meeting devolved into a spectacle of accusations with no practical solutions. And trustee Chris Gonzalez did not hold back when he criticized his handling of the issue, claiming that it was both ineffective and intentionally divisive in order to increase her own power, rather than address the needs of the community. As solutions emerged, it became clear that there were significant differences between the trustees and Henyard, which further hampered any significant advancement. In the midst of the protest, what should have been a productive discussion about getting insurance instead turned into a battlefield of personal grievances and power struggles, and the trust accused Henyard of using her position for political gamesmanship, despite the fact that her supporters still support her. Dysfunction within the township's leadership was on full display, and the spectacle only made residents more anxious as they watched the chaos unfold, leaving them with little hope that they get their vital services back. The township is at a standstill as a result of her Henyard's political intrigue and the lack of advancement on vital services. Concerns regarding the future of community leadership have been raised by the ongoing dysfunction, and the lack of insurance is just one of many unresolved issues that citizens face. Without capable leadership, the township's ability to preserve and protect the services that its residents rely on is rapidly declining. After the gathering was over, the chaos revealed a deep political and personal divide in the heart of Thoron Township. Henyard Chris Gonzalez, a trustee who was once her ally, is now one of her most vicious rivals. Gonzalez's alliance with State Senator Napoleon Harris, Henyard's most powerful political opponent, has made their relationship even worse when Gonzalez accused Henyard of using the insurance crisis to further her political agenda. Their anchor escalated the discussion, saying this is all about control. Gonzalez told the room in a frustrated and defiant tone, "They can't beat me, so they're trying to block me in every turn." This revealed the personal stakes in the ongoing feud, turning what should have been a conversation about governance into a heated power struggle. For Henyard, this newfound alliance has added tension to the proceedings, signifying a deeper political rift with far-reaching implications for the township's prospects, which claimed that political forces were attempting to overthrow her leadership. In contrast, she claimed that she was the victim of a conspiracy and that her political rivals were using every means at their disposal to thwart her efforts to help the populace. In response, some township employees were moved by this criticism and expressed skepticism about Hen's ability to lead successfully. "I definitely regret ever nominating her." Zula questioned her intentions and pointed out how the township had deteriorated under Hars. The ongoing conflict between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and trustee Chris Gonzalez has become emblematic of the dysfunction plaguing Thoron Township. Supporters of Henyard quickly rallied to defend her against Gonzalez, accusing him of opportunism. As the meeting progressed, both sides exchanged heated insults, showcasing the fracturing political landscape. While some view Gonzalez's criticisms as genuine attempts to undermine Henyard and position himself as a more capable leader, many of her detractors describe her leadership as increasingly authoritarian. Critics argue she is unwilling to consider alternative viewpoints or cooperate with other stakeholders, which has exacerbated public dysfunction beyond the township's borders. The political divide has become a significant barrier to effective governance, leaving residents concerned about essential services, such as public transport and after-school programs, which may suffer if the township cannot resolve its ongoing insurance crisis. Henyard's defenders point to her commitment to community needs, but the growing uncertainty surrounding leadership has left many residents frustrated. Her management style is perceived as polarizing, particularly regarding the unresolved insurance issues that should have fostered constructive dialogue, but instead devolved into blame games. With both sides entrenched and unwilling to make necessary concessions, the township's capacity to deliver vital services is in jeopardy. The political spectacle surrounding the insurance debacle highlights broader dysfunction within Thoron Township. Critics assert that Henyard's divisive approach is a key contributor to the township's inability to move forward. As tensions mount, it remains unclear whether she can withstand the criticism and retain her position. Political rivalries and personal grievances are likely to dominate the discourse, hindering the township's progress. The ongoing insurance crisis, intertwined with the political struggles, continues to overshadow township affairs, leaving residents concerned about the stability of their leadership. Recent allegations of financial misconduct and unexplainable expenses have further eroded public trust. While Henyard denies any wrongdoing and frames the investigations as attacks on her authority, the community is left grappling with a lack of clarity regarding the administration's fiscal responsibility. During a recent public comment period, Henyard portrayed herself as a victim of a larger conspiracy, claiming that political adversaries are deliberately trying to thwart her efforts. This narrative, however, has done little to quell the growing discontent among residents. Many express skepticism about the administration's ability to address pressing issues, reflecting a split community. Some still support Henyard as a defender of the people, while others see her as part of the problem. The political climate in Thoron Township has become increasingly unstable, and residents are left questioning whether their leaders will prioritize community needs over personal agendas. The conflict between Henyard and the Board of Trustees is at the heart of this ongoing crisis, with recent meetings revealing a toxic environment where even minor decisions lead to significant conflict. Henyard has publicly accused the trustees of deliberately obstructing progress, labeling them as saboteurs intent on damaging her reputation. In response, the trustees have described her leadership as domineering and unresponsive, arguing that her unwillingness to accept criticism stifles collaboration and innovation. This toxic political climate is not merely the result of personal grudges. It reflects deeper systemic issues within the township's governance. Allegations of financial mismanagement and the questionable use of public funds, including lavish expenditures, have raised alarm among residents. As public trust erodes, many feel increasingly disillusioned by a leadership structure that seems more focused on internal conflict than on serving the community, despite Henyard's claims of coordinated attacks against her administration. The growing discontent highlights a breakdown in leadership that has serious implications for the township. The ongoing FBI investigation into the administration's finances exacerbates concerns about transparency and accountability. As the political drama unfolds, residents are left wondering whether Henyard can navigate these challenges or if her controversial management style will continue to polarize the community. In summary, the conflict within Thoron Township serves as a microcosm of the larger issues facing local governance. With essential services at risk and a community divided, the need for effective leadership has never been more urgent. Whether Henyard can rise above the chaos and prioritize the needs of her constituents remains uncertain, but the stakes are high for the future of the township. The ongoing turmoil in Thoron Township has further alienated its community, with many residents criticizing Mayor Tiffany Henyard for her failure to bridge divides and unite disparate groups toward common goals. Her reputation has suffered due to her lack of collaboration and the relentless controversies surrounding her leadership. Increasingly, her judgment is questioned, and her defensive reactions to inquiries have only heightened suspicion among the township's leadership. This dysfunction carries significant implications for the township's future, particularly for vulnerable populations, including the elderly who rely on essential services like senior transport for dialysis treatments, grocery shopping, and medical appointments. Many residents feel abandoned amid the political strife, viewing these ongoing battles as matters of life and death. The essential services they depend on are not mere conveniences. They are critical lifelines necessary for their survival. During a recent community gathering, one resident expressed profound sadness over the current situation, lamenting that the township leadership has allowed vital services to deteriorate. This is about people's lives, not just bad governance, they said, reflecting the sentiments of many who attended. What should have been a time for solidarity and decisive action to secure necessary insurance has instead devolved into a cycle of political infighting and bureaucratic failure. Others in the audience echoed this frustration, condemning the leadership for failing to acknowledge the gravity of the issue and the urgent need for action. The crisis in Thoron Township has reached unprecedented levels, with the stakes higher than ever. As political unrest and power struggles continue, the township's reputation and effectiveness are increasingly threatened. Residents are frustrated not only with Henyard but also with the broader leadership, believing that personal grievances and power struggles have overshadowed the community's needs. The result is a paralyzed government incapable of making decisions that should be focused on the interests of its citizens. The ongoing political strife has particularly impacted the most vulnerable residents, especially the elderly. They bear the brunt of this turmoil, with their well-being hanging in the balance. The community's message is clear. The focus should shift from political wrangling to practical, real-world solutions that protect those most in need. If this dysfunction persists, the faith residents have in their leaders will continue to erode, jeopardizing the township's future. Critics argue that Henyard's inaction has left the community in disarray, with a lack of accountability, creating irreparable damage, especially for those relying on essential services for their health and independence. Residents are demanding that the leadership prioritize practical solutions over internal conflict, emphasizing the urgent need to stabilize services and address the ongoing crisis. As the political landscape grows increasingly dire, the crisis for Thoron Township's most vulnerable residents becomes ever more pressing. The community stands at a critical juncture that requires swift, compassionate leadership, qualities that have been sorely lacking until now. Many residents voiced their displeasure during a recent public comment period, calling for accountability from the Board of Trustees and demanding Henyard's resignation. Meanwhile, the township's financial troubles are deepening, with trustees publicly arguing over priorities and who should pay their bills first. This ongoing dispute has further illuminated the deep divisions within the board, leaving no clear resolution in sight. Henyard has rejected any compromise, dismissing attempts to address the insurance crisis with a defiant, "I'm not here to negotiate." Her leadership style, characterized by an unwillingness to collaborate and a focus on personal battles, has alienated many. Even claims of being blocked from holding a recent voting session, which she attributes to State Senator Napoleon Harris, have been met with skepticism, further intensifying accusations that she is more concerned with her political career than with the township's welfare. Henyard's controversial financial decisions, including extravagant trips and undisclosed expenses like an $85,000 concert, have drawn scrutiny and fueled concerns about her capacity to lead. The township's ongoing financial issues, coupled with a postponed insurance renewal, have left essential services like senior transport and community programs in jeopardy. Many locals are disillusioned by her choices, especially her decision to organize a bingo night during such a serious crisis. As the leadership struggles to cooperate, negotiations over the township's budget remain unresolved, exacerbating the situation for both employees and residents. Social media has become a platform for expressing widespread frustration, and many are questioning whether Henyard can turn things around or if new leadership is necessary. A recent comment encapsulated the community's sentiment: "This is the most dysfunctional leadership I've ever seen." While Henyard insists her actions are about protecting democracy and giving the people a voice, the reality of the situation paints a different picture. It is unclear whether she can weather the storm of criticism or if her detractors will succeed in steering the township toward a more stable future. In the aftermath of a chaotic meeting where no meaningful progress was made, residents are left wondering what the future holds. Will the leadership set aside their differences to work for the good of the community, or will the dysfunction continue to spiral out of control? For the most vulnerable residents, those who depend on the township for critical services, the stakes could not be higher. The ongoing crisis shows little sign of resolution, and the local population remains caught in the middle, forced to navigate the fallout of leadership failures until the leadership prioritizes the needs of the community over personal agendas and resolves the internal conflicts that have plagued them for so long. The future of Thoron Township remains uncertain. The call for compassionate, effective governance has never been more urgent, and the residents deserve a leadership that reflects their needs and aspirations. As the crisis unfolds, it is clear that the community's well-being hangs in the balance, and swift action is necessary to avert further decline.